Welcome to another episode of Influencer Profits. Our guest today is Emee Estacio. She is a #1 best-selling author of Change Your Life for Good and also The Imposter Syndrome. She has been working with entrepreneurs for quite some time now, helping them with their imposter syndrome, with the limiting stuff that holds us back, and be able to be really powerful. So Emee, thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited. We are going to be getting to the bottom of imposter syndrome because I know there are so many people that go through this, and it can really be detrimental to people's business. So I'm really excited for what you have to share. Thank you for being on today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to share what I know about imposter syndrome to your audience.
Yeah, that's super awesome because I mean, our clients, this is like a major thing. And so, for our clients, so tell us how you got into being a specialist in this, right? Like you pick, there's so many things that you could be amazing at, but you're like, I want to be really good at people thinking that they're not really good. So how did that start? And then what do you do for your clients now?
Right. Yes. Well, I'm actually a psychologist. I've been studying psychology for over 20 years. And I've just noticed, especially with the boom of online entrepreneurship, I've seen a lot of people going into the digital online business without really having practical training, like a formal training in university, because this is such a new thing, right? You don't really get taught this in school. You don't really get taught this in university or colleges. So people are going into this kind of business and they're feeling as if they're not good enough or that they are not qualified enough to do this, even if they are doing this for quite some time, gaining experience and so on. So I've seen this trend that's happening right now, and people are saying, I know that I'm good at what I do. I know that I can deliver results and have impact on my clients and so on. But they feel as if they're just fooling everyone into believing that they are good at what they do, simply because they don't have a piece of paper that tells them that they are qualified, even if they have the experience, even if they have the expertise, the skills, the knowledge. They still feel as if, I'm not quite sure if I'm good at this, even if the results actually do show that, they deliver the results. So yeah, that's why I got interested in this, because it's up and coming with this digital online entrepreneurship, and we see it everywhere.
Yeah. Let's explain just what you would consider imposter syndrome. If there's someone who's like, I'm not quite sure what that is for some reason, whatever reason that may be. No judgments, it's all good. But let's just get really clear.
You're good enough if you don't know what it is.
Yes. Let's just get really clear on exactly what imposter syndrome is.
Yes. So imposter syndrome is this persistent feeling of self-doubt, incompetence, and inadequacy, despite evidence that shows otherwise. So you may be good at what you do, you may have the knowledge, the skills, the experience, the expertise, and yet you still feel as if you're not good enough. You still feel as if you're just fooling everyone into believing that you're good at what you do, even if the results actually show that you're good at it. So it's not just a simple self-doubt. Sometimes when we do something, you step back and think, I'm not sure if I can do this. And then eventually you get over it and you do it anyway. With imposter syndrome, it is persistent. There is a cycle to it. You actually do get on with what you have to do because it's your job, it's your business or whatever. But you still deliver the results, and yet you still feel as if, I'm not sure if I did it well. I'm not sure if I delivered what I was supposed to deliver. And the cycle repeats itself. So the self-doubt is persistent. You start the task with a lot of anxiety, with a lot of stress, because you're not sure if you're going to deliver. And then you do it, you actually deliver, but at the same time, you still feel, I don't think I did well. I don't think I did good enough. So the cycle repeats itself in that way.
Got it.
It's more persistent.
So give us maybe one tactic, strategy, thing that you would do with a client or that you would want to show off. That's what we love doing on the show is going, okay, pretend like I have it or Holly had, whatever, whoever wants to work with you, and walk us through something that you would do to give kind of a breakthrough in imposter syndrome?
Of course, of course. So, one of the techniques that I teach my clients is called the TLC technique. So, it's actually recognizing that imposter syndrome stems from your inner critics, these messages that you tell yourself, the thoughts inside your head that say you're not good enough, that you're not qualified enough, that you're a failure. All these thoughts are coming from your inner critic. Unlike other self-help gurus that will tell you to crush your inner critic or banish your inner critic and get rid of it, what I would say is actually get to know your inner critic, because whether you like it or not, your inner critic is still part of who you are. It's in your head. And if you try to banish it, or if you try to have a fight with it, you're having a fight with yourself. So what I would say is explore your inner critic messages and give it a bit of TLC. Now, when I talk about TLC, I don't mean tender loving care here. Okay, it's not about tender loving care. TLC is a questioning sequence that you can follow, and it encourages you to ask 3 questions. Is it true? Is it logical? Is it constructive? So if you have an inner critic message that's telling you, I'm not good enough to do this, I have no skills, I don't have the experience or expertise to do this, ask the first question, is it true? Because more likely than not, it's actually a lie. For some reason, sometimes we lie to ourselves. Maybe it's to protect our ego or to protect ourselves from risks. So we tell ourselves these lies, and sometimes we believe it to be true, and it's not getting us anywhere. So when it comes to imposter syndrome, ask the first question, is it true? And it's likely that you will answer, actually, no, it's not true, because I have experience in online marketing, for example. Or even if you are new in this online business, you probably have experience or skills that you got from your previous job or, from your previous field, because it's, online businesses are new. So yeah, always ask the first question, is it true? Right? The second question in the TLC questioning sequence is you ask, is it logical? Because sometimes when you ask the question, is it true? Sometimes it's true. So that's why it's important that you ask that question, because you don't want to be in denial, when your inner critic messages are true. So for example, your inner critic is telling you, you're not good at this yet. You have to do more, you have to learn more. And you could ask yourself, is it true that I'm not good at this yet? And you might answer, yeah, I'm not good at this yet. But as a second question, is it logical? Just because you're not good at something yet, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it at all. And logic will dictate that the more you do something, the more you have experience, and the more you practice something, the better you will get. So just because you're not good at something yet, it doesn't mean that it's going to be like that forever. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't go for it. It just means that you still need to do a few more things. You just need more practice, refine your skills as you go along, and then you will get better eventually. So that's the second question. So is it true? Is it logical? And the third question is it constructive? So sometimes in this online world, we compare ourselves to other people. We compare our results with other people. And some people might be 10 years into their business, and you're just like, it's your first month and you're trying to compare your results. Ask the first question, is it true that they are better than you? Yes, they probably are because they have more experience. Is it logical? Just because they are better than you, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it at all. The third question is it constructive? What can you do to make it constructive? Just because other people are better than you, does it mean that you shouldn't do it at all? And what can you learn? What can you gain from them? Instead of feeling bad about yourself, instead of trying to compare yourself to them and feeling like, I'm rubbish. I shouldn't do this. Think about what you can learn from those people who are better than you, from those people who have more experience, so your inner critic message is more constructive instead of it crushing yourself and crushing your self-worth. So that's why I would say don't crush your inner critic, because these messages can be very helpful to you. Sometimes it might be lies, sometimes it might be true, but always ask, is it true? Is it logical? Is it constructive? And if you find that it's false, illogical, and destructive, then you just need to find a way to reframe these messages so it can work better for you.
That's really good. A couple of things there. One thing is we teach all of our clients is really you only need to be like a page or two ahead, right? A lot of people are like, they're thinking that they have to be super, super experts making millions of dollars before they can teach entry-level beginner starter people, right? And that does like whatever they're like, if that's like if our business, like we're not making $20 million a year, so we can't teach them how to launch, 5-figure launches or how to put together your offer or how to, those type of things. And that's obviously crap, right? It's like we've had, these results for ourselves. We've had these results for our clients. We obviously are credible to teach this and coach people through this process. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if you've lost weight, then and you've been able to do that, then you can teach other people to do it. Especially if you, and even more, your credibility and the amount you can charge different things, the more people you can get that same result. And it's like it stacks up and up and up. Now, when you first get started, you might not be charging top shelf premium prices because you haven't quite got all these results for your clients, or you haven't been doing this for years or whatever. And it doesn't mean you can't charge some, because it is your time and you do have some sort of expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really important that you recognize what you can deliver. For people with imposter syndrome, they tend to exhibit maladaptive perfectionist tendencies. Like everything needs to be perfect before they can deliver something. Actually, no, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Deliver what you can deliver. Now, just a disclaimer here, I'm not saying that you shouldn't strive for perfection. There's a difference between adaptive perfectionism and maladaptive perfectionism. Adaptive perfectionists are those people who would strive for perfection. When they achieve good results, they actually recognize it. They are able to celebrate it. They can share it and be happy that they've achieved it. And they also recognize that there's also room for growth. So they are perfectionists in the sense that, okay, I've done something today, there's room for improvement. I could improve it next time, learn more, and grow as I gain more experience. Those are adaptive perfectionists. They refine and hone their skills as they go. Maladaptive perfectionists, on the other hand, and usually these are people who experience imposter syndrome, are those people who wouldn't even recognize the good things that they do, and when they feel as if nothing is perfect, I can't deliver this yet, it stops them. This is what you're saying about, I don't have a 20 million business yet, so I cannot teach this. That's not necessarily going to help you. You can actually deliver results, and you can help people if you actually recognize what you already have right now and share that, even if it is not perfect yet. You can just be 2 or 3 steps ahead, but being 2 or 3 steps ahead can still help someone who is 2 or 3 steps behind you, right? So if I'm just going to share another technique, a second technique that I could share with your audience in relation to maladaptive perfectionism, it's called the flashlight technique. I don't know if some of your audience would have heard about this already, but the flashlight technique works something like this. You imagine that you're holding a flashlight, right? And you can only shine the light on one spot at a time. So if you are flashing the light onto yourself, and all you can see is self-doubt, you're feeling incompetent, you're feeling useless or whatever, if you shine the light onto yourself, that's the only thing you will see. And that's the thing that other people will see as well. That will get magnified. All your insecurities, all your doubts will get magnified. So what I would encourage you to do, instead of flashing the light onto yourself, you actually need to shine the light out and flash the light onto the people you're aiming to serve. Look at them. What do they want? What are their problems? What are the issues that they're facing right now? And when you see that, there are people who can learn from you, people that you can help resolve issues if they are in pain. How can you serve them instead of focusing the attention onto yourself? Focus the attention on the people you're aiming to serve. Focus the attention onto your clients. Reach out to them and serve them. So even if you are feeling doubtful about yourself, when you see that people are experiencing issues, if they have problems, and you know that you know something, you don't know everything, but you have this bit of knowledge and skills and experience that can help someone else, then you're more likely to go for it, because it's about serving others and shining the light onto them. So instead of focusing the attention onto yourself, using the flashlight technique, instead of shining the light onto yourself, you shine the light out, to serve your clients, to serve your audience. And that way, you don't have any more attention onto yourself. You just, serve and reach out in that way.
Totally.
I really like that, because when we go, it's important to go within, but if we go within and we start focusing on all of the junk that's in there, then we're more focused in here, where we can't really be out there to make an impact with other people. So there's a few things that I've really liked in this conversation. Is the first thing, in the beginning when you were talking about the TLC, a lot of gurus and people will tell you, to avoid the negative thoughts, I bought a course once. It was actually a parenting course to help raise successful children. And I stopped watching the course because one of them was how to avoid negative behavior. And for me, it's like when you avoid, what you do is you put up a wall, and then you just have a ton of resistance that's happening within yourself. Then the flashlight method is even coming in at yourself, you're this resistance is coming, all of this stuff. And then you start feeling guilt and shame that you're even thinking this stuff in the first place. So you start trying to put all that stuff under the rug. Eventually it just blows up everywhere. And I've also noticed the biggest thing that you can do when you're feeling down and when you're feeling the self-doubt and all of this stuff is when you're out there with other people and you get out of yourself to really serve other people. It's what imposter syndrome? What are you talking about? I'm you're just in the flow and in the present moment of that. So I really love for this conversation, how you help people.
Yeah, it's about serving others. Remember, it's not just about you. It's about your clients and the people that you aim to serve. And in terms of getting to know your inner critic, sometimes it's scary to actually explore these inner critic messages. Sometimes, that's why some people, brush it under the carpet or try to crush it. But the thing is, you wouldn't want to be in denial. These inner critic messages are there for a reason. Sometimes you feel fear, sometimes you feel doubtful, and it's simply because your subconscious is asking you to look. There's a potential risk here. You might need to pause a little bit and think about the implications of your action. So it's not something that you need to suppress. It's actually something that you need to explore. You need to understand where these messages are coming from, so you'll be able to make an informed decision on what you need to do next. You don't have to stop, just because you have these inner critic messages. You need to explore it, so your decision to act will be more informed.
That's something that we do a lot of. So we went to have you ever heard of NET, like a NET practitioner? It's a neuro-emotional technique. Basically, the gist of it is that we have emotions and stuck emotions essentially in your body. And essentially some pains and different things in your body are just stuck emotions, and these are from traumas in our past. And so essentially what we do is when we find that there's an inner critic or something that's constantly coming up, we ask, okay, well, when was the first time that popped up? What was the root of that actual thing? And then we'll take a look at, okay, wow, so that came from when my mom screamed at me because of blah, 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 when I was 4 or whatever, right? And then we use the NET, the neuro-emotional technique, to release that from the body. And a lot of times that helps remove the
Blocks.
the trigger and the how loud that is and what's in there. So it's really, really powerful.
Yes, that's really helpful. And actually, yes, some of these inner critic messages stem from childhood messages, childhood experiences. Because these messages have been with us for so long, it's been repeated over and over again. We've learned to almost internalize it as our truth. And until you actually get to explore it and use the TLC technique and ask, is it true? Is it logical? Is it constructive? You may just willingly accept it as your truth, and that could usually stop you from doing what you want to do. Now, it might be difficult for some people to let it go, especially if you've been holding on to it for so long. So even when they use the TLC technique, they would say, oh, actually it's true, it is logical, it's constructive. They couldn't get past the reality that it's actually untrue, illogical, and destructive. What I would say, if that happens, is you actually need to find another person to have this conversation with. That's why mentors, coaches, therapists, are quite helpful when you engage them in this conversation, because you have another person to reframe and explore these messages with you. Because if you're holding on to these messages for so long, it would be so hard to let it go. So have another person. So if you don't want to pay someone, have a friend, to talk to, and go through the TLC questioning sequence with them, because you might find that some things that you hold to be true, you'll be surprised that people will say, what? Are you crazy? You can't be serious to think that you're not good at what you do. Have you seen how people react when you deliver something? Haven't you seen the impact that you've given to your clients and so on? So having that third person, I say third because the first person is you, the second is your inner critic, the third person is that outside, other person who can give you another perspective, help you to explore and reframe these messages with you, especially if you're holding on to these for so long.
That's really good. That's actually something that Holly was just saying, similar in the sense that we create testimonials, or we don't create testimonials, we get testimonials from clients, and we keep them for our marketing, but we also keep them for ourselves. If it's ever where we're questioning, like, do I get a result, or do I really make an impact in people's lives, or whatever, you just go look at all the testimonials, listen to all the videos, you listen to, read them all, and you're like, after you're done, you're like, of course I freaking can do this. This is not a big deal at all.
Yeah, the results actually speak for itself. So that's actually one of the things that I teach in my book, Imposter Syndrome Remedy. What I tell my students is to keep a catalog of wins. Because sometimes your inner critic will just come knocking on your door, and you show the catalog of wins, like, I can do this, because you actually do have evidence. And also that's why I called my book Imposter Syndrome Remedy and not Imposter Syndrome Cure, because imposter syndrome will always be there. It will creep up every time you start a new project, if you have a new client, or if you're just having a bad day and you start questioning and doubting whether you can do it. You need to have techniques and strategies in place so you'll know what to do when imposter syndrome hits you. It's not a bad thing to feel self-doubt sometimes. It keeps you on your toes. And actually it helps you to stay grounded as well, not to be overly arrogant and think that you're perfect already. A little bit of self-doubt can be useful, but it's important that that self-doubt wouldn't stop you from actually doing what you need to get on with.
Yeah.
You need to have the techniques to help you to cope with it.
I like that.
So, Emee, how do you serve your clients currently? And what does that look like? And then what's the next step of that? Like, what is, the next year, 2, 3 years looking of your business and what you're really out to make a difference in there?
Right. Well, at the moment, I actually do have 3 books. It's available on Amazon. It's the Psychology in Your Life series. Book 1 is called Change Your Life for Good. So it's using applied psychology to change old habits. Maybe you're stuck in the rut. And it's not just common sense knowledge. These are based from psychological theory and research, and applied strategies that readers can use to change their lives for good. So that's book one. Book two is called Imposter Syndrome Remedy. So it's understanding your inner critic, learning how to cope with it, to manage it, so you can flourish with confidence at work and in life. And the third book is called Fear is Not My Enemy. So again, it's understanding your fear, recognizing that fear is something that can help you. It's part of our evolution. You have to learn how to use fear to your advantage, not to let it stop you, and use it to actually push you forward and achieve your fullest potential. So that's actually how I'm serving my audience right now. I have three books. It's available in print, audiobook, and Kindle. And to be perfectly honest with you, because I'm going on podcasts, the audiobooks are doing really well. It seems like people actually like to listen to information right now. When they go to the gym, or they are in traffic and so on, they put on the audiobook, or listen to a podcast. So yes, all of my books are available on Amazon, and it's also available on Audible and iTunes if they want to listen to instead of reading the books in print or in Kindle.
That's awesome. Do you
Um,
read your audibles, your audiobooks? Are you reading them?
oh yes, I
That's so
actually
awesome.
recorded my own stuff. It's really funny because so I get mixed reactions with my audiobook. Some people don't like my accent for some reason. I don't know why that is, but some people say they find it quite refreshing to listen to the author, because it's the author's voice. It's coming from the person who wrote it, so it's actually more personal. And I actually did learn how to edit my own audiobook,
Wow.
but I didn't master it. I outsourced it because it was too much, if I did it that way. But yes, I recorded my audiobooks, edited it, and
Yeah.
uploaded it on ACX, which is the platform to put it up on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. So yeah, so three books so far, and all of my books were launched to number one status on Amazon when I launched them. In fact, I actually even outranked Tim Ferriss with my first book, Change Your Life for Good. So that was pretty exciting. To outrank that megastar with a newbie author like myself. But it's all about knowing how the process works, how to trigger the Amazon algorithm, especially during launch week.
Well, you
So
teach people how to do that too, right? I think we had this conversation.
yes. So that's actually what I'm doing right now, because I absolutely loved writing and self-publishing my books. Before I went down the self-publishing route, because I'm an academic, I'm traditionally published as well. I have a publisher who published my textbook in health psychology. But to tell you the truth, I absolutely enjoy. I find more satisfaction with self-publishing because it's mine. I have more control. I have more freedom, and it gets published just like that. I upload it on Amazon today, and 4 hours later, it's out, and millions of people have access to it. And my books are fantastic in terms of growing my mailing list. I have a freebie in my book, so people can download the free workbook, or they would download the another ebook and so on. And I can grow my mailing list on autopilot. I just leave it there, and people are downloading it, and it's actually easier to pitch as well, in terms of podcasts or speaking engagements, or PR publicity. It's easier to pitch yourself because you are an author, and you are establishing yourself as an expert in your field. And especially if you manage to hit the number one spot, to pitch yourself as a number one best-selling author, it's absolutely fantastic. And for me, reaching millions of people through Amazon, and teaching them all these strategies that I know from psychology, it's absolutely amazing. So it's something that I do now. I have a course called Self-Publishing Made Simple. So I'm helping aspiring authors, especially entrepreneurs, business leaders, servant leaders, and visionaries to turn their passion into a number one best-selling book. Because I have to say that publishing a book can really help establish you as the go-to person in your field. It establishes you as an expert in your field, and you make this personal connection with your audience as well, because when they are reading a book, the attention is there, and they can almost hear your voice as well. You make this personal connection, and you can't beat that. It's absolutely awesome.
That's awesome.
I love it. So what's your vision of where you're moving forward to? Is it more speaking engagements? Is it having your own events? Is it, your course? What's
Yeah, my vision really is to help as many aspiring authors as I can, to turn their passion into a number one best-selling book. I've been having these conversations with other entrepreneurs, and actually a lot of digital entrepreneurs. They're producing all this amazing content online. They have podcasts, they have blogs, they have all sorts of posts on social media that they can easily turn into a book. You can compile it into a book. But because they don't know where to start, and I guess they are afraid, because of the imposter syndrome, I guess, they feel as if they're not good enough to write a book, or they feel that they're not expert enough to write a book, or they feel as if whatever it is that they are sharing, it's not valuable enough to be a book. For me, with my background in psychology, I can help people to get past that barrier, and actually turning their dream in, some of them, they have this lifelong ambition to write a book, but they couldn't get past that hurdle. So that's my ambition, really, that's my vision, to actually help more aspiring authors to get on with it, and share their message to more people, whoever they want to reach. Because if someone needs to hear your message, get it out. Don't be afraid. Just release a book, and it's a really great way to reach your audience in that way.
That's awesome.
I love it. Yeah, that's really awesome. So one question that I like to ask everybody on our show is, ultimately, it's my favorite question ever because it's just really powerful. We've talked a lot about imposter syndrome and our listeners, and I'm going to get a little personal with you, if that's okay.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
I know you've had tons of experience academically, being in psychology for 20 years. So I'm sure there's a whole wide frame of things, but I like to talk about, I put in quotes, failure, because I don't really believe there is anything as such thing as failure. But what would you say was your biggest failure in your 20 plus years of experience, and how were you able to use that to overcome it?
Right. Yes, I wouldn't necessarily call it a failure, because let's call it a life experience, shall we? But let me just say that returning to work after maternity leave was a little bit of a struggle for me. For all of my academic life, okay, even as a child, as you can see, I'm a nerd. I love studying. I love school. I love going to university. I pursued an academic career. So I've always strive for that academic excellence, academic perfection. And you might say that I did. I've established an international reputation in health psychology, particularly in critical health psychology. But when I gave birth to my son and took maternity leave, I didn't expect the amount of responsibility that I will have to bear, and how much the pressure would be, because I suppose it's the sleep deprivation, it could be the hormones, it could be just the exhaustion of having to be responsible for another human being. But the struggle from going from maternity leave and going back to work after maternity leave, I think I fell flat on my face when I returned to work, because I wasn't really managing myself well. I wasn't really pleasant to be around with. I went through severe depression, anxiety, panic attacks, you name it. And there was even a time when I broke down in front of 50 horrified psychology students. because they were asking me to answer their emails during the Christmas break, and I thought that's not on. So I just lashed out in front of class, and it was just a horrible time for us. But I wouldn't consider that as a failure, simply because now that I've gone through it myself and having recovered from it myself, I went through that process, just really significant mental health issues. I didn't ask for help. I was actually forced to ask for help. A colleague of mine locked me up in her room and didn't let me out of her room until I picked up the phone and asked for help from the doctor. So I was forced to ask for help. I got help, got better, and that's sort of helped me to write my books now. That helped me to get to where I am now. And because I've been through that process myself, my books are richer and more compassionate, I would say, because I've been through it myself. If I haven't gone through that failure, if you quote unquote, if you like, then all of the things that I would write will be just based on psychological theory. It will be like textbook material all over again. But because I went through that myself, I know what it's like to go through mental health problems. I know what it's like to actually have to recover, to see the consequences of that on myself and the people around me. And that just makes it more powerful. I wouldn't consider it a failure. It's a life experience, and we get richer, and we serve better by learning from these experiences.
I totally agree, which is why I love asking that question, because I want our listeners to know that it's okay that if things aren't hunky-dory, that everything is always working out for our good and can be used in such a powerful way that we may not even see at the moment. So
Absolutely. But I understand that when you're stuck in that moment, you feel like, oh, I'm just an absolute failure. There's no way I could recover from this. But if you adopt a mindset that it's life experience, that there's meaning, and you can grow and learn from it, then it's really a powerful way to look at your challenges and life experiences, and not really see it as a failure, but it's an opportunity for you to learn and grow.
yeah, I totally agree. I love that.
That's awesome.
So where can people learn more about you, find you, hook up with you, read your books? We'll have your books below, that link below, but where else can they find you?
Well, it's I'm on thepamecode.com. So it's THEPAME code.com. Pame is actually a Greek word that means let's go together. So thepamecode.com, you'll find all of my books there, my course, coaching services. So if people want to reach out, they can just find me there. Or they can join my Facebook group as well. I have two. We have the PAMI Code Facebook group. So if you want to learn about imposter syndrome and living with purpose and so on, the PAMI Code Facebook group is the group to go. Or if you want to learn more about writing and self-publishing, my group is called Self-Publishing Made Simple. So there's a Facebook group where I support aspiring authors to write and self-publish their books on Amazon.
Perfect.
Awesome.
And we have those links below in the comments of this podcast so they can go directly there and check it out. Emee, I really appreciate you. I think this has been a great conversation. It's been super valuable for us, and I'm sure for the people that are listening. So I just want to thank you again for coming on. And listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of Influencer Profits, and we will see you next time.